The Florida Gators have added to their defensive line in the transfer portal. Brandon Bett, you are a Florida Gator.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Happy Monday. As always, I am Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI. Today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox. No console needed. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. And the Florida Gators this weekend landed a commitment from Brandon Bett. We did not go live for this one because it was during NFL draft coverage. And frankly, this has been the craziest 45 days of work I've ever had between March Madness and then NFL draft prep and then the actual NFL draft. It's just been nuts. But thank you all for anybody that tuned in and clicked and helped, whatever it may be. But Brandon Bett, defensive lineman out of Baylor, 6'5", 300 pounds, will have 3 years of eligibility. And this is a very unique situation. Okay. Brandon Bett he didn't play in 2024. Okay. Didn't play in 2024. And it was because of academic issues. Okay. And I'm bringing this up, which I usually don't try to talk about the off-field stuff, but I do think it's very important to acknowledge the details in this situation where Brandon Bett's mom is the one that kind of brought this up about how people are seeing that he was academically ineligible for the 2024 season and assuming that he's doing bad things, right? Because so many times when you see someone that's academically ineligible, you kind of like your first thought jumps to, wow, he's doing the wrong things, right? Like he's messing around, he's screwing around, he's putting himself in the bad spot, hanging out with the wrong people, doing these things, doing those things. And your mind kind of jumps to that, which is understandable. However, context matters on this show on Locked On Gators. It might not matter on other shows. It might not matter when you're having conversations with whoever you're having conversations with, but it matters on Locked On Gators. And the context here is that Brandon Bett struggled in the classroom and was struggling in the classroom. He went to Baylor and asked them for help. He went to the Baylor staff, whoever it may be, and he said, hey, I'm struggling. I need help. And Brandon Bett and other Baylor players, which is important, didn't get the help that they requested. Okay? And I do think it's important to acknowledge that it's other Baylor players because this isn't one player that was academically ineligible, one player that was struggling academically that, oh, well, that's an excuse, right? Because I think a lot of people would do that. If it was one kid, yeah, I think a lot of people would go, wow, he's not a hard worker, lazy, whatever you're going to say. But we're talking about multiple players at Baylor dealt with this. This is not a Brandon Bett problem. This is a Baylor Bears problem. Different BB abbreviation, okay? So this is a Baylor problem there. I will say that at Florida, very good tutors. You see how this team pretty consistently grades out. That very good tutors at Florida, so that will hopefully not be an issue there. Even if he does struggle academically, better support system there. Brandon Bett was recruited by Ron Roberts because if you don't remember, Ron Roberts entering his second year at Florida. And again, that means 2024 was his first season. 2023, he was at Auburn. Prior to that, he was at Baylor. And Ron Roberts was recruiting Brandon Bett to Baylor, but Ron Roberts was gone before Brandon Bett got there. Okay. So they have that relationship at least where he hasn't coached him, but he has recruited him, and so he does know him. and knows that he can play in the system, wants him for the system. Brandon Bett was also recruited by defensive line coach Gerald Chapman, which is obviously even more important for the Florida Gators because this isn't just this is no longer just he was recruited by the defensive lineman. This is no or by the defensive coordinator. This is no longer he was recruited by this. He was recruited by both of these guys multiple years. And what this tells me also is that he went about things the right way because there's a lot of coaches who players go, oh, you know what? I'm out. I'm good. I'm not going to commit there. So I don't have to tell them. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to do things the right way, which there is a right way and a wrong way to do things. And for Florida, that's not the case with Brandon Bett because Brandon Bett did things the right way. And I think that that's an indicator of his character. I think that asking for help academically is an indicator of his character because, again, this is something where easily he could have just been like, hey, you know what? I'm not going to try that hard. I'm not. I'm going to try to do whatever I'm going to try to just go around. I'm not going to ask for help. It's important to ask for help and that he did that. Okay. And so that's important. It's important that he went about recruiting the right way because he was being recruited by Ron Roberts and Gerald Chapman. He chose the school that Ron Roberts was recruiting him to. And Gerald Chapman still, a couple years later, still wants him. And to me, that says he did things the right way. He didn't burn bridges. And so I do think that the character is important here. That's the thing that we've always talked about with Florida. And there's a lot of people who are going to go, I don't care about the character. I just want talent. I think you're getting both with Brandon Bett. I do. Again, I view him as he's someone that got experience because in 2023, he played consistently as a freshman. When he was a freshman, he played consistently. Okay. So he played consistently, started one game, played consistently as a freshman with Baylor in 2023. Again, 2024, academically ineligible, but again, also, he played against LIU, so he's got a little inside scoop on him when Florida plays them to open the season this year. But Brandon Bett played in a very similar defense because although Ron Roberts left, still very similar defense with Dave Aranda, who is a Ron Roberts disciple of sorts. So you still got that. He's someone that has experience as a freshman, still has 3 years of eligibility, so he's going to be a multi-year addition. And again, an important thing, Gerald Chapman wants him. Okay? So Brandon Bett, he doesn't fit our usual criteria, which is he's got no more than 1 year in college or 1 year, 1 year in college. So he's got to be at worst true sophomore, redshirt freshman. He's not. Or proven production last year. He doesn't fit that criteria. But he fits a new important criteria that overrides that criteria on the defensive line. Okay? This is the criteria that Gerald Chapman gets the nod. Okay? It doesn't have to matter if I like the player, which I do. I do like his potential. I want to make that clear. I think he's going to be a depth piece this year and then potentially a large role next year. So it doesn't matter about what I even think of the talent. It's Gerald Chapman wants him on the defensive line. And I've said this before with players that I wasn't sold on, where I've said, hey, you know what? I might not be sold on this person, but if Gerald Chapman wants you, works for me. Because it's honestly as simple as that for me. Gerald Chapman has earned that with his recruiting and his development. So Gerald Chapman has earned that nod where he overrides if I think a player is worth it or not. And I think that's fair that he overrides that because he does deserve that. And Brandon Bett is here. And now he's a Florida Gator. And he's here to work. And I do believe in his ceiling. I believe in Gerald Chapman's ability to develop him. And I believe in his fit with the defense. And so I'm looking forward to Brandon Bett's edition. We're going to talk about the Florida Gators that were in the NFL draft this past weekend when we get back with Locked On Gators. The NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Okay. And I've been loving FanDuel. I mean, yesterday, I accidentally bet way more money than I intended to on a certain parlay. I did screw the pooch on that one. But it hit. And that's all that matters, right? It was first inning runs, which I do it basically every day. But I had Orioles and Tigers under 1 run, so no run first inning. I had Reds and Rockies run in the first innings. It was at Coors Field, so duh. And I had Pirates and Dodgers run in the first inning. Cash plus 415 parlay. Bang. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Thanks for your Locked On Gators, your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free, whether it's in the podcast and on YouTube. And we are talking about the Florida Gators in the draft because the draft was this past weekend. The first 2 days of the draft came and went, and there were no Florida Gators drafted, which wasn't surprising. I've said it on the show. I know I if you're not around on Twitter, really, I go in Twitter spaces. I talk to people and I give my opinions. And I told people I didn't think Florida would have someone drafted on the first 2 days. Like, people can disagree with my opinions. But a lot of what I say regarding the NFL draft is based on just what history tells you. Xavier Restrepo, I thought he was going to get drafted very late, but he had physical athletic profile outliers that said he was never going to get drafted. Okay. Things like that. Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon, very good film, very good college tackle. He went undrafted, and we were talking about it in the Locked On Gators Discord, where I was saying, look, he's just not a very good NFL athlete where they're not going to spend draft capital on him. That doesn't mean he can't work out. Like someone going undrafted or getting drafted doesn't mean they're going to work out, not going to work out, can work out, can't work out. It's just gauging how badly teams want you. That's really it. It's just gauging how much teams are willing to invest in you. That's what it means. And the Florida Gators, the first Florida Gator drafted, was the first pick of day 3, first pick of the 4th round, wide receiver Chim Dike, who I did say was the guy that I thought would be the first Florida Gator drafted. Because I've said this before. Again, I know, like, people can feel how they feel about college evaluation, pro evaluation. I try to evaluate everybody as if I'm comparing them to the NFL. And Chim Dike was always going to be one of the better guys, or not always. After the season he had, we'll say from the end of the season, Chim Dike was going to be the highest drafted Gator because he put out film and he plays in a way where it tells you, hey, he's going to be in the league for 10 to 12 years. He's going to be wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 4, but he's going to be in the league for 10 to 12 years. And him going to the Titans, Cam Ward, him going to the Titans, good spot for him. It is. It's a good spot for him. I think that there's a path to playing time. I think that with them also drafting Elike Yomenar from Stanford, that it tells you, hey, we really value receivers that can block. And Chim Dike blocks, plays special teams, is a good receiver, especially over the middle of the field. I do think that it's going to be weird because I think we're going to see a lot of highlights that are Chim Dike from Cam Ward. And it's going to be a lot of fans are going to be torn. But I'd imagine, if there's a poorly thrown ball and Chim reels it in with one hand, Gators fans are probably going to give Cam some stuff or give Miami fans some stuff. And if Chim drops an open pass, I'd imagine that Miami fans are going to give Gator fans some stuff. And then this isn't the order that they were drafted in, but Jason Marshall Jr., we're going in the order of the rounds, not necessarily the pick. But Jason Marshall Jr. was drafted by the Dolphins in the 5th round. So he gets to stay home, essentially, because he is from South Florida. So he gets to go back to Miami, play for the hometown Dolphins. And it's great for him, honestly. Like, he's someone that I didn't think he'd get drafted. Just because he had basically 1 year of good film, then 2 or 3 years of film, and then this past season, really good film. But he was injured and missed the rest of the year. And so there wasn't, in the past 3 years, there hasn't been one full season of good film. I guess you could talk about the end of the 23 season and first, I think he played 5 games in 2024. 5, I think it was, in 2024. And so I guess you can count those and just say, hey, that's basically a full season of film in a row that he played well. Didn't test awesome in what he did test, but he didn't test poorly either. But Jason Washington Jr. playing for the Dolphins, good. This is a team that right now they're undergoing some rebuilding aspects of their game, so good fit for him there. The Carolina Panthers, very interesting approach that they took. The Carolina Panthers drafted 3 people that were Florida Gators in 2023. Yeah. The Florida Gators drafted Princely Umanmielen, Trevor Etienne, and Cam Jackson. Cam Jackson in the 5th round, which, of course, it's funny because if you remember, right after the Georgia game, like 2 days after the Georgia game, this past year, because during the Georgia game, Cam tackled Trevor Etienne, ripped his mouthpiece out. And then during that game, Trevor Etienne got hurt. And a couple days after that, Cam tweeted that Etienne's mom was texting him about how he hurt Etienne. And it's funny that now they're on the same team. And so that's going to be interesting, to say the least. We'll say it's interesting. Shamar James, also a 5th round pick to the Dallas Cowboys. I do think there's a path to early playing time for him there. I didn't think he'd be a 5th round pick. I thought he'd be a 4th round pick. Just because he's got the athletic tools and traits. Didn't test awesome, but I do think that played a part in it. But I also will say that for Shamar James, he's played in different defenses every single year at one of the most important positions for continuity. Like corner, yeah, there's a bunch of differences, but like you're playing a bunch of different coverages. It's just that you play some as your bread and butter, right? Like it's like, yeah, we're going to be really heavy cover 3, really heavy cover 1, but we're still going to mix in cover 2, cover 4, cover 6, all those things. And so for corner, you're going to play everything. It's just a matter of, how often you play and how well you play something. With the defensive line, especially with Cam Jackson on the interior of the defensive line, there's only so many things that you could be asked to do, right? Shamar James, he went from, I'm going to line up strictly off ball to I'm going to line up off ball and on the edge to I'm going to line up off ball as a will, like moving all around. And so I do think that that's part of the evaluation for him is that every year he's had to learn new defenses or at least significant changes to the defenses. But Cowboys 5th round pick, path to playing time. As a Giants fan, I hate that he's in the division, but also I love the Giants draft, if I'm going to be honest. So I'm kind of cool with it. Graham Mertz got drafted, which round of applause for Graham Mertz. Graham Mertz was the 6th round pick with the Houston Texans. And I love it. I sent a couple messages to people on Saturday morning, and I was like, hey, I was told that Graham might get drafted today. And lo and behold, 6th round pick, Graham Mertz. We need to start having a conversation about Billy Napier, the QB whisperer. He got Anthony Richardson, 4th overall. He got Graham Mertz, who when Graham was coming from Wisconsin, there were people saying he couldn't even be a G5 QB, okay? Keep in mind, I said I like the fit. I want to circle back to that one. I didn't think that he would be a legitimate NFL guy or an NFL draft prospect. I said, a year ago or so, that I was like, hey, Graham's going to have to go undrafted and fight his way back, but he can do it. He's not even going to have to do that. He can get started right now in the playbook, learn it, and be the backup to CJ Stroud, which is big. He's going to be an inexpensive backup. They keep 3 QBs. He could be QB3 for this year, maybe next, while he masters the offense and then come back again. But good for him. Good for him. Like I don't think anybody can overstate the impact that Graham had for the Florida Gators. Whether or not you like him, whatever it may be, or whether or not you wanted Lagway to start, it really doesn't matter. I don't think anybody can overstate what Graham did as a Gator in his short time. Jeremy Crawshaw, punter, to the Denver Broncos in the 6th round, which is huge, partially because he's now kicking in Denver, where the air is thinner and the ball travels more. During the FanDuel ad, I said, I bet over in the first inning because they were playing at Coors Field, Colorado. Air's thinner, ball flies out more home runs there. It's the most home run friendly park, or one of the most home run friendly parks. I think Citizens Bank might be more home run friendly, but Coors is more extra base hit friendly, if I'm not mistaken. But Jeremy Crawshaw now gets to punt in that air 6th-round pick to the Broncos, and the only punter drafted. That's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome there. Triquez Bridges was the second to last pick in the draft, almost Mr. Irrelevant, drafted by the Chargers, the LA Chargers. And that is one where he genuinely has a pretty good shot at playing at some point. His versatility, I know, was something that they valued there. And it's something everybody's always going to value. It's why I thought even if he signed as an undrafted free agent, he had a chance at sticking. But his versatility matters. Not really sure how they're going to use him yet, but I do think that he's earned this opportunity, and I do think that he can maximize on it. I think there's a path to playing time in that secondary because yikes. So I do think that Triquez Bridges could be someone that second and last pick in the 7th round could last around. We're going to talk about the Gators undrafteds. I do love a couple of the fits. I'm not going to lie to you. We'll talk about that in just a second with Locked On Gators. I don't know if you like going to sporting events or theater or anything, but I do. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment. Huge. Electric in the arena, right? And with game time, you can be part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. I'm not going to go to Game 5 of Knicks and Pistons at the Garden because that is going to be $1 trillion. What I did use game time for is let me double check the date. I think it's June 27th. Let me just double check the date. But I'm going to see my favorite comic on the planet, John Mulaney. It's also going to be with Jon Stewart of The Daily Show and Pete Davidson in Newark, June 27th. Yeah, bought them on Game Time. I was waiting for the pre-order, like everything. I was ready for it. I had to go see it. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, issue with Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code Locked On College for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free. Listen to the podcast and on YouTube. And to wrap up today's show, we are talking about the Florida Gators that went undrafted. And like I said earlier, then this involves every player from every school. It's not about it being Florida and me coping, anything like that. Whether or not a player gets drafted or not doesn't mean that, because this player got drafted, he's better than this other player. That's just not how the draft works. And I know a lot of people talk about the draft like that, but it's genuinely not how it works. I mean, look at the Anthony Richardson draft. And I'm just going to bring up Anthony Richardson because he hasn't worked out to this point in the NFL. I'm not going to say he can't work out. I refuse to do that stuff because anything can happen, right? But look at the 2023 NFL draft. Anthony Richardson was drafted 4th overall. Okay? He was the 4th overall pick in the 2023 NFL draft. In a draft where you've had all pros already with Devin Witherspoon, Bijan Robinson, Jalen Carter, Jameer Gibbs, all there. You've had QBs find more success that were drafted after him. You've found safeties, DBs at other spots. Like you found so many players in that draft that have been drafted after Anthony Richardson that were better than him. And it's not that he was drafted because he's better than them. It's because he was drafted because if he hits, he's going to be amazing. That's what the teams are willing to invest in you. It doesn't mean that you're better right now. It's what teams are willing to invest. And so when we talk about a guy like Brandon Crenshaw-Dickson, he had a phenomenal year for the Florida Gators. He had a rough one game against Miami. That's it, really. That was his one really bad game. Everything else, he cleaned up. And he played great. I just don't think he's an NFL athlete enough where teams are going to draft him. He's a bad athlete. And so teams are going to say, hey, we're not going to draft you. We're not going to spend draft capital on you. We will give you a bit of a signing bonus with some guaranteed money attached and come and let you be an undrafted free agent. Fight for your spot. Like that's the thing too. It's not just a camp invite. It's undrafted free agent. Like you were signed. You have a contract. And now it's just, fight. And if you make it, you make it. And I think Brandon Crenshaw-Dickson to the Titans, an interesting fit. I don't know exactly what they plan on doing, but I will say this. Jonathan DeCoster comes from a very similar offensive line tree of the Callahan system that the Tennessee Titans run. Okay. So I will say that Brandon Crenshaw-Dickson signing with the Titans makes a lot of sense because he's been, for the past year, he's been coached the way that they coach. So that means that they don't have to go in here and teach him all new techniques and all new everything. They just have to teach him how to do it better or let him keep getting more reps there. That's it. I think it's a great addition. I really do. I think that's a great fit for him. I thought that the best fits were the Titans or the Browns. Okay. Titans. And I called that one in February. I have receipts to prove it. That I said Brandon Crenshaw-Dickson might be a guy that the Titans can look for. I didn't say draft or undrafted. I was just like, hey, that might be a name for you to keep out on to our Titans host. And I was like, that might be a name for you to keep out on to keep an eye out for because he might be on the board. Elijah Badger signed with the Chiefs. And I will say also one thing, because a lot of people went, oh yeah, how did he go undrafted? That was expected. Insider program, we've talked about it a long while back. I do believe that there are many reasons that might have happened. I've told people before that there were reasons that might have happened. I've openly said why I thought it would be. I thought that, you look back at after the Tennessee game, we talked about it. He went on Instagram Live. He said some things, and someone said, hey, don't say things like that because the NFL is going to hear it and they're going to care. And he's like, I don't care. And it's like, well, okay, you didn't care. That's great. It's a way to stand on business, but it costs you. That's part of it. I think it's a great fit. You earn that playing time. It's not a very great receiving room in Kansas City, so there is a path to actually making the roster. I think they're gonna have to make him play special teams, which I think he can do. Speaking of special teams, Jamarcus Weston, wide receiver turned safety, turned linebacker, turned defensive end, signed to the Jets with one of the biggest undrafted free agent guarantees we saw this cycle. And he's going to stick. He is. This is of all the undrafted free agents that signed for the Florida Gators, I think Jamarcus Weston is the most likely one to stick. I think that the New York Jets signed him and said, I don't care what your position is. You're one hell of a special teams player. And because you're one hell of a special teams player, I want you on my team. Matthew Slater, Justin Hardy, guys that don't play on offense or defense, but they're special teams aces. And every team has one or two of them that it's like, hey, we don't even care if you know a role on offense or defense. We just want you to play special teams and be damn good at it. And you don't give someone a bonus like they gave Ja'Markis Weston if you don't believe in them. Because what that bonus tells me is that there was competition and they wanted him. And so the Jets got a stud that's going to last in the league for probably 6+ years. Or probably the average NFL career is 3 years. So 6+ years, I'll say, is a gunner that's high quality. Could be more, probably is going to be more. But I'm saying I'm going to set my expectation at 6+, 2 contracts basically. Because a lot of these undrafted contracts just outright are 3 years. So I'm going to say 2 contracts there. Montrell Johnson Jr. signed with the Philadelphia Eagles, which as a New York Giants fan, I hate. I'm going to be honest. While I'm live or while I'm recording this right now, I'm going to look at their running back room. I get the idea of, well, if I could play behind that offensive line, I'll look really good. I understand that, but he's now behind Saquon, of course, A.J. Dillon, Will Shipley, Tyrion Davis-Price, Avery Williams, Lou Nichols, Shunderick Powell, and then there's him. Or not that he's behind them, but he's in that room. So I understand the thought of if I can play on that line, then I'm going to be really good. Or if I can play behind the line, I'm going to be really good. But it's the whole getting playing time thing that's tough. But who knows? Maybe he was like, hey, Saquon's probably not going to play preseason, right? I'll get reps. Figure why not. But it's interesting. And then the last undrafted free agent that signed for the Florida Gators, Big Dez Watson with the Tampa Bay Bucks. And Tampa Bay trade, Trevor Sycamore with PFF, also Florida Gators alum. He's been on the show quite a few times. He said, it's going to be really fun if we see Vita Vea and Desmond Watson on the field at the same time, because that's just mass, right? That's all that's just putting mass on the field and saying, good luck, try it. Try the tush push. I dare you. But the Bucks, great signing for Des Watson. He's reportedly lost almost 30 pounds since a pro day, which he weighed in at 464 pounds. Here's the thing. We can love Big Des, but he needs a body transformation if he's going to last. I think the heaviest NFL player to ever play in a regular season game is like 410 pounds. That's a steep drop there. So he's got to get right. He can get right. NFL strength conditioning, maybe going to help him more. But Des Watson is a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free reviews in the podcast and on YouTube. We'll be back tomorrow to talk Florida Gators basketball. Wink, wink. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work for New York Giants on SI, and I'll see you all next time.